Do it again.
Do it again.
That wasn't even loud. You gotta make sure it gets mine. You know that's making it.
I hope it does.
All right, so we're here, Randy's fish room. We're installing another air pump, and we're teaching you guys about air pumps because there's a lot of mystery around it. And when I did my original video 5 years ago, I didn't sell them, and I didn't have the knowledge we have now. So tell us all about it. That's what I want.
All right, so in the fish room right now, we're running 59 airdrops, so across the 4 different walls.
And what's an airdrop?
So an airdrop is going to be basically an air stone or a Zis ZB300 bio bubbler filter. It could also be just straight air bubbling and going into the fry system, or what's running the 2 Zis brine shrimp hatchers right there. So it's basically anywhere where there is an outlet of air. So for our purposes, yeah, we'll say that I have 59 airdrops across the 4 walls. And right now, the entire fish room is being powered by the LA45C Mito linear piston air pump right there, available on aquariumcoop.com. And it's doing a pretty good job for the most part, but what do we say? 47 airdrops is I think what we say you can handle. Because
I do the 1 per liter. It's 46 liters, so
okay.
46 is kind of the recommendation depending on tank size.
Yeah, and so clearly I've exceeded that by Carl at math. What, 13? Is that is that what it is? So 13 airdrops beyond it, and what we do see as far as performance is that this tank in particular, so these Barbados Cories, that Zis filter back there, that is with it turned on. That's it with it turned up 100% at the air control valve.
So it's not even like, I mean, I guess it technically is tumbling, but
barely.
Yeah,
barely.
And
like,
so that's one of the signs when you're running out of air is that 1 or 2 drops will get shut off or be so close. And what that means is you start getting a little bit of clogging, or what I experience in the store, when you do water changes, when you take water out, it puts less back pressure, so more air will come into these tanks than that one. And you can actually, I've had it happen in my old fish room way back in the day where I killed fish going, oh, I'm going to go have lunch and blah, blah. I didn't realize a heavy stock tank down below in a corner had no air for the last couple hours.
Yeah, and I've thought about running a supplemental air pump to it just to make sure that, you know, it's got enough oxygen. I felt okay because, as we see, there is still oxygen entering the system. I do have live plants in there. It's relatively low stock for being a 20 high tank. You know, it's getting the fresh water changes, so there is that water air turbulence kind of thing happening with each one of those water changes every day. But it's something where, you know, long term, I absolutely want to get that addressed. And so what we've come up with is, what's the thought? So instead of buying a whole new larger air pump,
yeah, we're going to add another of these linear air piston pumps to the system, and that should, like at the store, what I found was if one ever failed, one would still get you through it, which I've never had one fail, but redundancy is, you know, what I do in business. So, and then, you know, in 3 weeks, when you want to set up one more tank or one more fry thing, you can actually have more air to do that. And so, one thing I do want to touch before we kind of talk more about the pump, you built an air system, a manifold is what it would be called, a loop around the room that goes all the way around that supplies the air. Now that's an important thing because being in a loop, you don't have to worry about running too long in one direction. And then also what's important is the size of tubing. You're using what, 3/4?
3/4 inch PVC, yeah.
Yeah, and so the larger you have, the better technically, but 1 inch is kind of a sweet spot price-wise. You go to 1.5 inches, 2 inches, starts getting to be hundreds of dollars to run it. So I recommend 1 inch. 3/4 works fine also.
I'm not even sure how I landed on 3/4, to be perfectly honest. I think it was just in my head that was the kind of standard for a fish room, so I went with 3/4. But you know, hindsight being 20/20, hearing your advice on it, you know, I definitely would have gone with 1 inch.
The difference when you build it is probably $10 to $12. And
oh, it's negligible, yeah. At this point.
And a fish room this size with 59 drops, it's not horrible, but like my old fish room at 75 to 100, or the store over 100, that's where you really start getting, like at the store, foot number 70 away from the air pump, you need to make sure you have enough air still traveling, and so the less we restrict it, the better.
Yeah.
So,
and when you told me about running two of these in parallel with each other, I thought it was kind of like black magic or witchcraft. I didn't know that you could actually do that. And so this is going to be a first time for me, and I'm pretty excited to go through the experimentation process and actually see it happen in person. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know that you could do that. You can't do it with diaphragm pumps, is what you're saying, right?
I shouldn't say it can't be done. It's horribly inefficient, and if you don't get the air flowing correctly with check valves and such, they can actually fight and burn each other out.
Right, right.
Same with a blower, can technically happen, and there's always ways around to do anything. The way like a bigger linear air piston pump over here works, they just put more pistons. So there's a piston moving up and down that moves air. Well, if you wanted a big one of these, it'd have 2 or 3 pistons. So all we're going to do is take something that has 1 piston and add another pump that has 1 piston. And there is a little bit of savings. If you're running a whole fish store, you could buy from someone else besides us and get a giant one.
Sure.
But you're putting all your eggs in one basket, so you don't get the redundancy. And 2, you're only saving probably 30 or 40 bucks. You know, which is a lot. You know, that's probably about 5% when you're buying 2 of them. But I've learned, because I have many of these pumps, I probably own 6 or 7 of them now. I have lots of big ones kind of laying around, because as I downsize, a bigger pump doesn't work well in a small room, but a small pump can always scale up. The big pumps don't scale down. You can bleed off air and have a lot of excess sound and stuff, but it's not efficient. So the goal, we're going to show you how we set one of these up and hopefully fix the problem and check in. So we're going to move camera.
All right, so here's our work table. We're on top of my chest freezer in my ultra messy garage.
For brine shrimp eggs.
Hold on. Well, that's a secret product. No, this is the brine. This is the brine shrimp eggs in use. These are the ones that we are very much considering and working hard to bring in. These are the ones that you can currently get on the market right now.
Look at the color difference.
There's a huge color difference, and the hatch rate, the egg separation is just.
They've been seal of approval by Dean. Dean is jonesing to get more.
He's seriously beating me up about getting these, making sure that we source them. So PVC cutters, barb with a male-female screw and adapter or a fitting, an extra length of 3/4 inch PVC. This is the T that we're going to use to tie into the existing loop in there. We do have PVC glue. And I actually consulted with you on this one, Corey, in terms of in your experience, everything in there right now is cemented, and you did just reaffirm that, yeah, we should absolutely cement this one.
So in my own fish room and at the store, after like 14 months, 18 months, I've had some connections get warm enough and vibrate enough that they eventually opened up. I never lost any fish, but it happened at each one, and then we glued them, and it's never been an issue ever again. And I do know that other people have had problems where they didn't get a super tight fit, and it's a problem. So
here is the wonderful LA45C Nito Koki Mito blower available on aquariumcoop.com, and this is just a fish room hobbyist standard right here. This thing is awesome, and I'm stoked that even if we only sell like 1 a month, like this is an awesome thing for us to offer for people that do run a fish room.
Now I got backups because we have the warehouse. So.
I didn't want to bring up that kind of selfish reasons, but yes, we do have backups now for our fish rooms. This is the box that it does come in. We do take the extra step of putting it in an additional box. This really isn't the best for shipping in its own container, so we do put it in its own box when you get it from us with our custom aquarium co-op tape. And then the tubing that we're going to use to tie the pump to its fitting.
So it comes with this fitting, by the way.
Yes, it comes with this fitting and these clamps, which will then go
and a lot of people think you can just go from this right here to PVC. It's not meant to do that. You need something between the two, like this barb fitting. Well, I got it the wrong way here, but this barb fitting to this PVC, then to your PVC loop like we showed earlier in the video. So that's one of the things we want to really highlight here, is that while yes, you can find tubing that would fit this perfectly and put a clamp on there, this piece is to make this easier. This is available Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of these types of places. Yes, you're actually right. We had to grab.
I came from the bag of goodies. Every time we make a Home Depot or Lowe's trip for any fish room related item, buy 2 or 3 of everything you think you're going to need, and then buy some extra different sizes, because you never know what you will or won't need.
You're right, because the way we're going to install it, we actually laid it out, we're actually going to use this piece here, piece of tubing between the two, to this. And the reason why you don't want to just rigid plumb it, and what does that mean? That means only this rigid pipe is this will vibrate a lot against walls and the ceiling. Now this is rubber and it will dampen some, and this is on rubber feet, so it is super quiet, but not transferring any of it with the flexible tubing between that will give you just another layer of being quiet. And if, you know, the number one thing we get asked is, what's a quieter air pump? How do I make it quieter? That's how you do it. You isolate the sound and the vibrations.
The last piece here to talk about is a little worm gear clamp. Unfortunately, I don't have one that's large enough for the 1-inch outer diameter tubing, because these worm gear clamps can completely open up. So ideally I will have one, since these actually have clamps here, there would be one from this end of the elbow to the tubing, and then where the tubing meets this PVC, so it's basically going to go together like that as it ties in. So I'd have one here as well. So, and that's something that I can always do after the fact. I'm not worried as far as pressure goes. I can go a day or two until I go to the, do the next Home Depot run to get a proper size, 2 proper size worm gear clamps for that to secure it.
And so these are 3/4 fittings. You could also use 5/8. We just happen to have 3/4 already here in his garage, and then this adapter, you could adapt it to 1-inch just as easy. So even though we're doing 3/4, it already has that in the system. And each one of these is a custom build. So if you're starting from scratch, you can do anything you want. But if you already have something at home and you're adapting, you've probably done this a little bit before, just a little bit of adapters. If you've never done it, it's not daunting. It's a trip. And, $15 in parts at the hardware store, picking up extra pieces, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, and actually this whole blue collection of whatever the actual plumbing application is, this is probably 1/4 of the price of some of the other barbed fittings that you could find at the big box store.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the material or the actual industry application, but for a fish room, you typically kind of Frankenstein bits and pieces. Look for this blue stuff. It's way cheaper and it's just as good, super thick. I mean, it does the job.
So Randy is confident in his abilities, and he said he can glue it all up out here. He's already given it the eye once, and so now I'm calling him out on his bluff. We're gonna film it here, and then we're gonna laugh if it doesn't fit. Which it's pretty easy, it's gonna fit. But
this is pressure now. Well, I'm not gonna cut this thing. I mean that we're gonna wait. That we're gonna wait.
Yeah.
Measure 1.5, cut once, cut twice.
Yeah.
A little bit something like that. Now I feel like this is a cooking show.
Give it the twist. Come on.
Twist.
Oh my god.
There's a twist?
Yes. So whenever you glue a joint, so technically when you glue a joint, and this is for like actual plumbing, but even here would be good, you want to put glue on both this piece and in this piece.
Right.
When you insert it, then give it at least a half turn. That'll make sure that any parts that were missed, the glue spreads as you turn it.
Oh, do you know why I didn't do that?
I don't know why.
Because I live dangerously.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that's in. I do know to hold it in place though.
Yeah.
At least, so it doesn't back itself out, because that's for sure a thing too.
Yeah.
So we got that. This guy, I do need to take this off.
I don't glue that piece.
You don't glue this piece?
Never.
Oh, you, my friend.
That's the one way you get to take it apart. You won't have to, instead of buying a union.
Scorched earth.
Oh, man.
Napalm. Just. Yeah, and I think technically these threads don't actually match up with that one, so that's another reason to glue it. So I think that's kind of the trade-off with these cheaper fittings.
So the good news is when you're playing with an air system, it'll take the path of least resistance, and that should be the sponge filter or Zis filter or something like that. If you were doing water, very important all of a sudden.
I'm twisting.
Yeah. I like that you wear more of it than you get in the fitting.
I find that it helps add a nice glow to my skin.
This is why he uses clear and doesn't use primer, because he'd just be purple.
Well, some of it, there's purple. There is a lot of purple everywhere in there.
Yeah.
Don't be fooled.
By the way, almost any glue will work for this. Like, it's pretty low pressure stuff we're doing, so buy whatever like a $4 or $5 can is at your hardware store, you'll be good enough.
Jimmy, edit that out where I actually put it on the inside.
I saw that.
Can is at your hardware store, you'll be good enough.
Oh, man.
You know what distracted me was thinking about a Reese's.
Everything's 10 times harder on a camera. I don't fault people because I do it often.
All right, so now we can go back into the fish room with our stuff.
Yep. Okay. And the pump. If only there was someone else here to carry that pump.
Hold on. We can do this. Balancing act.
All right.
There we go.
We'll get set up.
All right, so I'm thinking, because I have the play, I can be a little forgiving, and I should probably do like a what? Like an inch cut?
I just usually make one cut.
Crazy, man. crazy. I don't know if I have that kind of play.
Well, if you do, I mean, you dry fit
Oh,
first.
so I will be limited by that much play right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, you might have to make 2 cuts.
All right, we'll shut down.
This will be the big
You like
test. I do like that.
Little switch right there.
So I used to run that. So back in the store, I used to run it on like a little remote, so I could turn off the air when I fed, and it trains the fish that when the air goes off, they eat.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Is it the thin or the thick PVC?
Oh yeah, we're good.
All right, you did the thick, good. So thick wall PVC is highly recommended when you thread in the metal valve or the plastic valves. It really helps to have thicker PVC. And I don't know that we have any thin.
I'm not even gonna test fit. We're just gluing, going straight in.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay.
The moment of truth here.
Yeah, it's gotta hold the world together. There we go.
All right, so now we have the down portion. We just have to hook up the hose and mount the pump. So another good tip I got for you guys, the higher you mount your air pump, the warmer air it will grab. So in the winter, it'll grab your hottest air, put it back through your tanks, helps heat it up just a slight bit more. It's not a huge difference, but enough to notice. And getting it up high and out of the way, or back in a corner like this, will save you quite a bit.
So even though we've already shown how much rubber shock, absorption these things have,
Yeah,
I
but
do
you
put
made
this
basically like a rattle. By putting wood on that metal?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes,
that's why you have to fix that.
Yes.
Like, it's not that the pump itself is out of control.
Exactly.
I bet you Dean has a version where he hung like a piece of wood from the ceiling, and so it free floats and 100% like...
He probably does some type of like anti-grav little chamber.
That's what I'm
or
saying.
something.
He's got something where it's 100% in isolation suspension.
Where's my cooking spray?
Pam works. And if we had had it 5/8, it's a slightly easier fit, but that required a hardware store trip, and we didn't want to do that.
Yeah, so we want to go...
Fish room floor check. That's going to be in every new fish room video I do now. Let's look at the floor.
Is a floor check?
Yeah, floor check.
My 3 mats that don't quite cover the full floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one of those hindsight things is I probably would have done like the gym flooring that you have in the fish room, or...
You only learn that after like fish room number 3 or 4
Yeah.
and building a store. Then you learn like, oh.
Okay, so that piece is on.
Yeah. And you want a tight fit because these pumps run hot. Like, one of the first comments we get is like, oh, this thing's pretty warm. It is like an engine. There's a piston in there moving, friction. So it is going to be warm. And when you heat rubber up, it gets a little bit loose. So that's why you want the clamps and things like that. And you'll often see that your PVC will run warm because we're already running it towards the top of the ceiling. And, it's a warm system. So, just know that's normal.
But now I'll need to get one of my fancy
I know.
on-off switches for this guy.
How often do you actually turn it off?
Every day.
Really?
No.
Oh. I've known people that do that before when they feed, but
No.
cool part, what I love about it, is fish act way different. So like these fry over here, they're all up at the top because there's no waves. So you can actually get a really good look at fish a lot of times.
If I was ever filming in here, instead of having to pull the outlet out, just having that switch makes it a little bit more convenient. Is I think really the only reason why I actually do have an on-off switch there.
So we used to do that with filming, and then the internet would be like, why aren't any of your sponge filters running? And like it totally detracted from the video. So even though it made it nicer to film and quieter, I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is the throwback to the let's just work in the fish room and let it run long.
All right, I think that's about... So we'll go about 30 inches.
By the way, Randy's wearing my favorite hat. I'm wearing it too.
It's a good one. Should we tease that there's another variant of this hat coming out that is long requested? Should be a couple weeks from now.
I think you have a hat that I don't have. No, maybe. Do they all come with this, or is it only the prototypes?
Those are the prototypes, yeah.
Yeah.
And to help keep costs down,
They wanted like an extra
to...
$4 billion to put the Aquarium Co-op on the back of the hat, and
It's also another quality control touch point, which not that they're bad quality, it's just
one more thing that could go wrong.
one more thing, yep.
And by the way, we lowered the price like on all the hats and shirts, so we're able to do a little negotiation and
And I just use the PVC cutters. I actually use these for cutting quite a bit of tubing as well, like soft tubing and not just PVC.
Yeah, and corn on the cob.
Oh, that's crazy. Come on. That's like the move in this fish room, is just like setting things on top of tanks. And then I sit here and I spin around looking for fish food lids.
The worst part, when I go to film my fish room, I'm cleaning up 2 weeks of setting down tools.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even do that much, but somehow I have every tool I own on top of an aquarium.
Shout out to Zenzo when he and I were recently talking for an interview that'll drop next week.
Ooh, I might actually listen to that.
Yeah,
one.
well, basically me talking about how like I really need to apply some of the stuff that we do in our operations, like point of use and really cleaning up and having organized workplaces. Like that needs to be in this fish room. And so Marie Kondo, you know, cleaning up your clutter is definitely something I want to do in this fish room.
By the way, the Aquarius podcast is uploading to the Aquarium Co-op podcast. Is it 2 or 3 episodes a week you're uploading?
I think we're doing Monday, which today's Wednesday. I need to get another one up, but I think I'm up to episode 12 already. So
yeah, and once he catches up, then it'll be 1 a week. That's his normal release schedule. So we want you guys to get the context of all the great guests we've had. Well, not we, he has had in the past. And then you guys will get my live stream and his podcast once a week. At least 2 shows. Working our way up.
Get footage of this thing freaking whacking me in the face.
What's crazy is I think Joe Rogan just signed to
Spotify.
Yeah, if he takes it off YouTube, I can't even imagine what that's going to do.
He is, yeah.
$100 million doesn't seem like that much money to him because he makes so much, but they must be offering him something. Because I think Jamie got all of the advertising money from YouTube, so he didn't even want it.
Jamie, his producer sound guy?
Yeah, his salary is just like what YouTube makes.
Wow.
And so
that's why he cares so much about the copyright violations and stuff.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes, because on one hand you're like, oh, it's not going to be on YouTube, but on the other hand, what if it makes Spotify/podcasting 10x as popular? That's kind of cool. Tubing's too long.
Tubing is a touch too long, yeah.
Zoom in. He's pinching it off there. Yep. Look. That's where you always got to cut off those extra few inches.
Oh, I'm getting caught on the lids.
There you go. And if you didn't have that tool, you can use scissors. I've done that too. It's not as easy.
You're just not as cool.
There's just been different points in my hobby, okay? Or I can't find it. That's more likely what goes on.
This is the move right here. 1 leg up. It gives you more leverage.
Yeah, it's proven. It's most... Safety is when you have 1 foot hanging off a ladder and the other foot kind of hanging off the ladder at the same time. Although there's videos of me where I stand on the top rung to do stuff. Safety first. Yeah, well, they gotta get wet. There we go.
Having a 3rd row or a top row of tanks like this does actually get a little dangerous, because there have been a couple times where I've almost taken spills coming down off this ladder.
Because you don't want a giant ladder, because then it's always in the way. So you want the smallest ladder possible, light, move it around.
Okay.
So that's the one, right?
That's the one. Are we ready for the explosion?
Let me get down and view this. Yep, still going the same pace, same pump, or brand new pump, but same pump. Let's kick the second one on and hope for... Oh yeah, there it goes, exactly what we wanted. You see it speed right up. Turn that second one off again. And it loses the pressure again. Exactly what we wanted. Yep. You didn't get to see it, but you'll get to see it in video. And you'll be like, oh yeah, that totally worked.
I hear it. I mean, it's definitely like the rumbling.
Yeah, let's keep it quiet and then hit it.
Ready?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one thing you're going to have to do too, is you're going to have to go and adjust, because everything just got like more powerful. So there might be some that are just like raging now.
Yeah.
Now that's nice to know that you could have a whole pump go down and still be covered. And not that I actually have only ever heard of one ever needing a service out of every fish room I've ever visited. And I didn't even know the guy. I just heard about it. Some guy said, where do I send one in for a service? I think it still worked. He just had it for 20 years.
Well, that's not Eric Olson, is it?
No.
So I think Eric and Kathy, I want to say they've had theirs going for 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
Their linear piston air pump, and they've never serviced it. They've never touched the air filter.
Same with the.
Yeah.
I did replace the air filter at the store, which was easy, but that's running 7 years straight, and all the ones in my fish room. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the most part. Let me take a look at this.
And they don't use very much water. I think it's like,
Oh yeah.
40, 50 watts, something like that. We should actually chime in and see both of them. Oh. So you got the front one, the brand new one installed, the one in the back, and they're running in tandem right there. So, if you were to somehow make this room magically bigger and needed to add some, you could add a third one on, and it grows the way your fish room does.
It is definitely a thought that wall might come down and the fish room extends that way to the end of the garage.
There you go.
For another episode. All right, so what we have here, 3 outdoor ponds. These actually 2 came from you, or / the co-op, which koi in this bin.
Yeah, $9.99 koi.
Yeah. So what we have is that is the orange Medaka rice fish.
Yep.
Yeah, rice fish there. That came from your home. This is a native killifish in here, and then this is going to be just a giant vat of green water and mosquito larvae. So Daphnia did go in here. The Daphnia didn't do well, but mosquito larvae have been thriving.
Perfect.
Which my wife has absolutely been thrilled about.
That's why you got to harvest all the time.
But every day what I do is I just come over here and I harvest. And so right now, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but hopefully there's probably, I don't know, like 100 or so mosquito larvae that are just at the surface. And as you walk by, they're super smart. Like,
yeah, you got to sneak up on them.
Once they see you, they'll run away. But right now, this net is essentially empty. Let me get that's the joys of the Pacific Northwest. You get all these like Doug fir needles and whatnot. So I'm just going to go and do some loop-de-loops with this
laps.
thing. Yep, some laps. And we'll see what we get. Get that surface layer. And I feel like as long as I'm going fast enough, they can't escape. At least out of the net, the ones that I've already caught.
Yeah, that's true.
And so,
all right. Oh, yeah.
all that is just...
And can you feed them like discus or something? Have you done it?
No, that's real crazy. I could feed them the angels.
All right.
I wouldn't mind doing that.
All right.
So let's put them in. I assume I put them in there, but they just gobble them up. So
yeah, I was like, there's a billion angels in there. How many angels are in there?
There's a lot, and there's a lot of pearl scales in there too. Like that guy right there. There's some really, really nice ones that I may just try to breed the actual pearl scales together and see if I can get more pearl scales, because the initial breeders had the gene, but they didn't express it. So maybe you increase your yield if you breed 2 with pearl scale.
Nice.
So
yeah.
But yeah, that iridescence is really, really pretty.
Yeah, they're nice.
And our good friend in Chicago has got 13 of these now. So
that's right. Yeah, that's a good yield you got going. So is that 120 or 1129?
1129, yeah.
So that means November 29th is when they were...
Was their the egg, the day that I took the eggs out and basically would put them in a jar with methylene blue.
So that makes,
yeah.
he's what, 6 months old? 7 months?
Yeah, it's already, it's May, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Like, that's a good... Like, if you're out there breeding, this is a great size. Every store thrilled to get an angelfish at this size, homegrown, because, like, it's gonna do great unless the store's bad and they get sick. But like this is like exactly what you want.
Yeah, in this tank itself, with the filtration that I have, especially with this that we featured before we talked about it,
yeah.
The eBay special that you have to retrofit, like the biological filtration has just been amazing on it. Like I haven't had any water quality issues on this tank whatsoever.
Nice.
So for like a large grow out population, these are really, really good. They're finicky to set up, but I mean, you just see how bacteria filled that thing is.
Nice.
But yeah, come get them at the co-op.
All right, guys. Well, that's how you install a linear air piston pump. That's an old school fish room video, kind of tinkering around, and yep, looks like it takes about 50 minutes to do all that.